Welcome back to PCW, where today we are reviewing Monday Night Raw. Stay tuned for news on Alexa Bliss and the shaping up of their Hell in a Cell card. Hello wrestling fans, I'm Tom Collihew for PCW, and this week's Raw felt sort of like a pay-per-view in that it was just constant recap match, recap match, recap match. Very little actual advancement of anything, a lot of rematches, but still some very high quality actual wrestling. If you're a fan of interesting storylines and evolution of character, this is not the show for you. If you're a fan of very good wrestling, this probably is the show for you. Subscribe if you haven't already, leave a like on the video, and let's get started. Raw started much like SmackDown did, but instead of Sonya Deville in the ring, it was MVP, and instead of a parade of champions, you got a parade of random women standing behind Bobby Lashley. This would evolve exactly as everything has evolved recently for Raw, meaning that Drew McIntyre gets involved and says, I want a match. For no actual reason, bless him. They are not scripting him particularly strongly in these exchanges. Thankfully, he scripts himself pretty strongly and makes up for it in that way. Kofi Kingston would also join the party, having beaten Bobby Lashley last week in the main event. This time in the opening match, he would be facing Drew McIntyre, the winner getting a shot against Bobby Lashley at Hell in a Cell. To be clear, Drew McIntyre has always been the plan to take on Bobby Lashley at Hell in a Cell. Kofi Kingston right now is just being used as a spoiler to keep them separated so that they're not constantly at each other's throats, because the feud is going to live forever. The match itself between Kofi and Drew was extremely good and a lot of fun. Drew McIntyre continues to evolve his overall wrestling ability and really increases the crispness of his offense. Certainly since WrestleMania, he's really stepped it up a little bit more. And Kofi is a good foil for him, being someone lower down the card who can sell pretty hard. Kofi got some good spots in, but Drew did kick out at one a little more than I would like. That said, the match lasted about 30 minutes, so quite a long match for an opening match, and went to an inconclusive finish when both MVP and Bobby Lashley attacked both Kofi Kingston and Drew McIntyre very carefully at the exact same time, meaning a double DQ, and we will have a rematch again next week. Credit goes to McIntyre here, who demanded something be done by Adam Pearce. And when Adam Pearce said he was pissed, Drew McIntyre just said, get more pissed. That's a t-shirt in the waiting. After a recap and a backstage segment, we ended up somehow with Rhea Ripley versus Nikki Cross in a beat the clock challenge. Rhea Ripley had to beat Nikki Cross in 2 minutes and failed to do so because she took her eye off the ball. This feels disrespectful to Nikki Cross and to Rhea Ripley. Nobody won here. We had 2 vignettes for Eva Marie over the night, the first one being about her on the movie stage as it were, and the second one being about her as a personal trainer and a gym instructor. Neither of these scream face to me. We had a match between Charlotte and Asuka, a rematch from last week that went just over 20 minutes, was very different from the opening match in that it was mostly ground-based technical offense, a lot of chain wrestling and submission holds, some really clever play here. They went to a finish that was a win for Charlotte, but still moderately inconclusive in that it was a surprise roll-up, which shows luck. That said, Charlotte Flair has been announced as the competitor for Rhea Ripley's Raw Women's Championship at Hell in a Cell. Not announced for the cell just yet, but give it time. This is also a very bad look for Asuka, who won the match last week and didn't get the championship shot, and yet Charlotte won the match this week and got the shot. Not a great moment. After another recap and a long promo from Cedric Alexander where he just reiterated everything that he said previously, we had a rematch between Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. This time Cedric got the win, and there was a lot of hints here showing that Cedric will be continuing to get the push here rather than Shelton. Firstly, he had new gear, secondly, he got the promo, and thirdly, of course, that he won the match. I feel this is WWE correcting course. They previously had Shelton win, but this time it was Cedric. Cedric did say in his promo that if he won this, we wouldn't see Shelton again. This made me slightly worried that Shelton Benjamin may be next in line for a release. He was also still wearing his Hurt Business gear, so it doesn't look like he's going to be pushed anytime soon. Matt Riddle and Xavier Woods had the match of the night, really delivering high quality at the beginning of hour 3. Interesting that for this draw segment they use Xavier Woods as the principal draw. No sign of Randy Orton this week. Also no sign of Damian Priest, Jeff Hardy, Jinder Mahal. A lot of people missing from Raw this week, but we'll get to that a little bit later as regards Alexa Bliss as well. The match featured a number of very good technical spots and some shoot style as the match went through 3 phases, but ultimately ended when Matt Riddle hit an RKO on Xavier Woods. And for a moment there, had a more serious Randy Orton-esque expression before remembering that he's Matt Riddle and he doesn't care about anything. Good match, good win for Riddle, good storytelling in this particular one. RK Bro continued to be the most compelling part of Monday Night Raw. Jackson Ryker beat AJ Styles in about 2 minutes, and I kind of hate my life. Raw was going so well until this moment when it all fell apart and made me question everything. Baffling in the least, but this is a move towards AJ Styles and Omos being treated as baby faces. They need to take some losses to be endeared to the fans again. The Thunderdome are already being instructed to cheer. This also makes it look very likely that RK Bro will be going heel. The RKO from Matt Riddle certainly suggests that as well, but it also definitely means that the Viking Raiders don't really have anyone to feud with going forwards, which is why we haven't seen them for a few weeks, outside of a lumberjack match last week. Sheamus beat up Humberto Carrillo and then pinned him with a roll-up on 4 minutes, having sat down on an attempted roll-up by Humberto himself. Essentially, afterwards he continued to beat up Carrillo, whose feud with Sheamus basically has ended, and I feel that this particular appearance was the WWE saying, hey, you know you're talking about Humberto Carrillo being injured? He's not. After the match, Sheamus continued the beatdown, Ricochet would appear and rescue Carrillo. That is where the feud is at the moment for the United States Championship, at least until Keith Lee eventually makes his return. Which, by the way, he will return. He hasn't been released. I don't know where that rumour came from. With only about 10 minutes left for the main event and a commercial break to fit in, Natalya and Tamina defended the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler once again. This match wasn't about the actual wrestling whatsoever. It was about Reginald, it was about Shayna Baszler, and it was about Alexa Bliss. Unfortunately, Alexa Bliss had some trouble at home. Her pig Larry Steve was very, very sick and unfortunately has passed away by the sounds of it from what she's been tweeting on Twitter. She was due to be there to make an appearance to chase Reginald and by extension chase Nia Jax, but she wasn't able to by the end of it. Natalya and Tamina did retain. Shayna Baszler took the pin and afterwards, blaming Reginald for essentially being set on fire, even though it was a stunt double, she challenged him to a match next week, meaning that next week will be main evented by Kofi Kingston and Drew McIntyre again, and we will also get Shayna Baszler versus Reginald. Reginald so far has only wrestled intergender matches. This will be his third. Raw this week started as a good show that lost momentum over the course of the show. There was a point after about an hour and a half when they sort of ran out of big name draws and they still hadn't announced what the main event was going to be. Clearly the WWE do not have much faith in the Women's Tag Team Championships. Still. That said, the wrestling quality was very, very good, even though there were some confusing decisions such as AJ Styles losing the way he did, Nikki Cross winning but only by surviving 2 minutes. There was some disrespect thrown around on this week's Raw, but the wrestling quality was very good and it did have that pay-per-view feel. For PCW, I've been Tom Collihew. Thank you very much for joining us. Remember to hit like on the video and we will see you next time.